afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Clinical and Translational Science Institute seminar series. I am absolutely delighted today to introduce our speakers for what I know will be a really engaging session for you all. So first, allow me to introduce Ms. Erica Francis, who currently serves as the Administrative Director for our Clinical and Translational Science Institute. Erica has 11 years of experience at the College of Medicine, including the last 7 as project manager. For the last 4 years, she served as the project director for Project ECHO, where she has assisted with the onboarding and retention of 12 staff members and managed over $10 million in project funding through a number of federal and state agencies, including the National Institutes of Health, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, and Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. We also have Ms. Ellie Hogentogler here, who currently serves as Director of Programs and Outreach for Project ECHO at Penn State College of Medicine. Specifically, Ellie is responsible for overseeing the strategic communication initiatives for and increasing engagement in the program. She provides overall leadership, management, planning, and strategic direction to a broad portfolio of educational initiatives and project plans. These efforts are focused both within and outside of the institution, specifically focused on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Additionally, Ellie oversees the onboarding and retention of a growing team of research, planning, and facilitation staff responsibility and delivering the ECHO series related to community research programming. So thank you so much, Erica and Ellie. Oh, I almost combined your names there. That would have been good. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to an awesome session.
I love that, Jen. We'll be like viral. We'll be a viral duo. Just call us Ari. So thank you so much for having us today. I wanted to provide a little context as to why Eric and I are presenting on building and retaining top talent for CTSI. So I have had the distinct pleasure of working with Erica for many years, most of my career here with Penn State College of Medicine in leadership positions with her for different programs. Most recently, before her joining as Administrative Director for Penn State CTSI, we worked together to build a team for Project ECHO at Penn State College of Medicine, and we worked also to build a team with other leadership for Penn State Pro Wellness in the College of Medicine Pediatrics Department as well. So we've learned a lot of things along the way, and most recently we've learned a lot of ways to pivot, kind of what we need to pivot during a remote and virtual environment, which I know a lot of us are facing at the College of Medicine as well. So I will preface this presentation that we are no experts, but we certainly have learned a lot of things throughout this process. So we started at Project ECHO in 2018 under Dr. Krasniewski's leadership, and we were tasked with launching the program and built the team from 3 people to now nearly 15, and it's still growing. And I am proud to say that I am just delighted to work with the team I work with every day. It's a true pleasure, and I'm very proud to work with them. And I'm also very proud to recognize that, you know, we've not lost anyone yet on Project ECHO to not being unfulfilled or you know, to dissatisfaction. We all just come to work and enjoy coming to work, and we make sure we check in and people continue to feel that way. So the agenda today is to talk about this buzzword, which I'm sure you've all heard, the Great Resignation. We also want to talk a little bit about team building and retention and resources that we have at our disposal through CTSI, and also that we've used with Project ECHO for building and retaining talent. One of the things we implemented during this remote environment is stay interviews, which is very different from performance appraisals. We found it really beneficial. Erica will be talking about that later in the presentation. And then some tools and resources that we have and we can provide to you as an example, many of which are customized to the teams we work for, but happy to share that with the group if needed. So let's get started. So the Great Resignation, what is that? So it refers to a higher than usual number of non-retiring employees who voluntarily left their jobs since late 2020 and into now 2022. Although I will say there is resignation data out there that is suggesting that this phenomenon started, actually began more than a decade earlier. So we're seeing people kind of shift their priorities and what they're looking for in positions, and we're seeing that in this Great Resignation. So the initial surge in 2020, it's believed, was due to a backlog actually of resignations, since workers weren't quitting during the height of the pandemic due to related fears like financial fears or fears of being without work unexpectedly. So some of the data we found in preparing this presentation is that 1 in 4 non-retired adults left their job in 2021 voluntarily. 40% of the global workforce, it said, is expected to leave in 2022. So as I mentioned, this was kind of a result of pent-up resignations, but there has been data and there have been articles written that kind of identify a refusal to go back to a world of work in 2019, and that there is focus shifting towards flexibility, wellness, hours worked and when they're worked, and work-life balance. So these are all good things to take into consideration when building and retaining your team. So this is just a little more information about that work. These were questions asked when considering of employees who may be considering a change in work and what is important to them when making that decision. So you'll notice compensation is still high on the list, but there are definitely metrics that fall under meaning, confidence, and competence and autonomy for employees and why they're choosing to leave or stay with their position. And then just a different angle here. So job seekers, there are a percentage of professionals selecting priorities that aren't just compensation and benefits. This is just another way to illustrate that work-life balance is really important for employees. So setting up a culture, an environment where that's able to be afforded to staff and allowing them to thrive, to get work done in a meaningful way, and that works best with their preferences, but also for the organization, is ideal. So these are really important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the team building and retention aspect and share with you some of the things that we've done at Project Echo, but also, the CTSI's Team Science Toolbox is a really great resource for considerations. And I love when reviewing it, it's not just about skills, technical skills. It's about a lot more than that when you're building a team and when you're considering people for positions within your team. I also want to share, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but strengths finders. When we go to build our team, it really is important to look at the dynamics and personality traits of your team. And this book by Tom Rath has helped our Echo team tremendously. Every new employee gets this book and gets to take the quiz, which identifies some of their strengths and where they're coming from. Again, I'll talk about this a little later, but it's important to consider when building a team that compatibility of personality traits, how they identify with the team. Previous performance records are really important. I hate to admit it, but in the past, I have thought, gosh, we've got to call these references for these employees, and they always come back glowing because, of course, the employee provides them and puts them on the list. But I will say, I took a new perspective to this. I recently didn't hire someone for the team because there were some major conflicts with team dynamics, and also I think there was an open floor where the person called felt that they needed to share some experiences they had, and that directly impacted our decision to hire this person on our team. I think also, if you're going to hire someone, even if their performance records are exceptional, I think there's also ways to ask questions in those reference checks where you can get at maybe your past experience experiences with employees that you want to make sure you don't duplicate, or they may provide areas for improvement. And that's really good to be aware of when you're going into the onboarding and reviewing the work as they move forward. You're kind of aware of that and helping steward them through the process of meeting their milestones and goals. Problem solving is really important in a virtual world. I'm sure that's important for everybody all the time, but especially now, I think it's important to have folks that can work independently as well as very well within your team culture and dynamics. Diversity is also very important. I have to say, you know, in the last, maybe 10 years, this is something that has come up under Dr. Krasniewski's leadership and other leaders that I've worked for, different perspectives, kind of leaving your ego at the door, being able to say, you know what, I'm really good at this, but our team could really use this, and I'm not so good at that. Really kind of having that team culture and environment of looking at what you're good at and what you can still improve, and kind of building the team and having employees enter that can perform in those ways. And then obviously, and I listed this last probably on purpose, but the position needs and skill gaps, that's very important. Don't get me wrong, but it's not always more important than these other things. So team onboarding. So we always, when we onboard a team, especially in a remote environment, it's changed significantly. I know the College of Medicine is working on new onboarding, which I believe is going to be piloted later this year or maybe early next year. So we're really excited for that. But these were all things that we did prior to this coming to the forefront and this becoming an opportunity through the college. We like to create onboarding materials and documents, roles and responsibilities that are really customized to our unit and our program, and that are even customized to our positions. We've created a team culture where our employees are empowered to say, you know what, we did this great, but we could do it even better. And we have staff that have taken leadership in making the onboarding documents and roles and responsibility documents even better than what Eric and I ever could have envisioned. So we're really proud of those. But we do have individual introductory meetings with team members. We always do that to kind of just set the stage for what their expectations are. We also encourage new employees to meet with every person on our team. Especially, it's really important, I think, in a remote environment, just to have 30 minutes face-to-face via Zoom or in person, if you can manage that, just to kind of get to know each other, personally, professionally, what you're working on, and they can have a better idea of what your work style and approach and personality are just by having those individual meetings before they get started. Weekly check-ins with a manager are really important, just to make sure that there's no questions. They're not sinking. They feel that they have their head above water, and they're not out on an island. So that's also very important. One of the things our team has improved for our onboarding is 3, 6, and 9-month position expectation milestones. Abby Fisher, Kara Schiffler Bowers, and Laura Felix have worked really hard on this. Laura has really gone on this kind of granular level of position classification and profiles, where we lay out specific expectations at these time points that we can then insert into their onboarding materials. So Project Echo, for instance, we have profiles that fall under the education classification. We have profiles that fall under the research job classification. And so at each of those levels, we have templated milestones that we can then build upon if needed, but customize in our onboarding documents so that people have a sense of, okay, I know that this is expected of me, and they're not feeling like more or less. They're not feeling like they're not sure where they stand. So we try and create those and distribute those at the very beginning. Like I said, we do a customized team-based onboarding document. These include not only the overall college requirements and trainings, but also what's specific to their role that we need them to be aware of, and programs that they need to get trained on. We've added team culture and expectations to this document as well. So our team has kind of identified and defined, what is our team culture? I think that's a really nice practice. You can do that through a team building retreat or strategic planning retreat. It's much like kind of figuring out your mission statement together, but it's kind of your team culture statement and what those expectations are. And then we have a team charter. We have roles and responsibility documents that we like to put together. Again, this is just full transparency, what to expect of your positions and the teams and the positions that you work with. This is something we kind of mimicked from another colleague, Jennifer Poger, who had created a roles and responsibilities for her position way back when, many years ago, and we've kind of built upon that. So every position at Project Echo has a roles and responsibilities document, and it's really customized to them. So these are the projects I work on. These are the main contacts external to the organization. These are the meetings that we attend and the frequency of those meetings. These are the key important details that you need to do if you were to step into my shoes and take on this role. And not only is that beneficial for others to know what your team is doing, it's also beneficial that if something were to happen, somebody would go on maternity leave or would have to take an extended leave, someone else can kind of walk in seamlessly to their position and have a really good snapshot of what their position entails. So again, happy to share those resources with you as well, but they will be customized to our unit and program. So checking in, this is kind of where I want to talk about StrengthsFinder. What StrengthsFinder does, it identifies a combination of strengths and human behavior. It provides an individualized lens into each staff member and how they work. And what this does, it allows you perspective to be able to resolve conflict and to places where they're coming from with their strengths and how they work, and really helps you direct opportunity and work in that particular person's direction. So each person takes this, at the end of the book, there's a survey, and it kind of places you in 4 quadrants. And I think there's over 35 different strengths. So every person is very uniquely different, but it gives each of us a perspective on that particular staff member and how they work. And it's actually a really fun exercise because we've kind of come together as a group, as a team building exercise to discuss our strengths. And Erica will say, I'm data centric. I forget what the strength is, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so Erica. And it helps you kind of come at different professional circumstances and conflicts and even looking at what they're really exceedingly good at and say, I know exactly why that is because, of X, Y, and Z. So it's really important to check in, and have increased empathy in times of conflict. One thing I will say, we've allowed our staff, we're fortunate that a mistake will not be, dire or threatening to anyone's lives. So with our team, we allow, not opportunity, but we allow failure and we work to improve that. Although our team is just, we've created a culture where we support each other and, we don't want to see any of us fail because I think our individual successes and our individual failures are the success and failure of the entire team and the program that we support, and vice versa. So that's really important. Transparency and quality improvement. Our team feels empowered to improve all of our processes and our documentation, and also, our onboarding. And having empowerment to control and find meaning in the work. When I was reviewing the CTSI's Team Science Toolbox, I said, oh my gosh, yes, that's it. They mention autonomy, which basically is the team having control of carrying out their work, the importance of impact. So they perceive that they're making a difference and they are making a difference. Competence, they believe they can carry out their work skillfully, and meaningfulness, that they care about the work they do. So we really try and create an environment through our team building exercises where our employees feel this way, and we like to check in and make sure that they continue to feel that way and try and adjust and pivot when they don't. So that brings us to team assessment. So kind of aligning passions. So, as team members stay with us for years on end or even months on end, they kind of, they get used to the work that they're doing. And of course, are looking for ways to be challenged and to grow. And it's really important to continuously assess that growth and check in with your employees to see, okay, how are things going? What are you passionate about? What are your joys? What are you looking to grow into? What are you not so passionate about? What are things that you might be able to delegate if our team were to grow and we had additional help? Again, I mentioned performance appraisals. These are excellent times to have these conversations, but we recently implemented stay interviews at Project Echo, and Erica led this initiative. And it's very different from performance appraisals. We don't connect them to appraisals in any way. It's really a practice to, what can we do to keep you? We don't want you to leave. We want you to stay. So how can we do that? What are your passions and your interests? So I'm going to pass the baton to Erica so she can talk a little more about that.
Thanks so much, Ellie, for that background. I just want to echo, no pun intended, what Ellie said about the two of us. I just feel so grateful to have worked with Ellie and alongside her for the past several years. And under Jen Krasniewski's leadership, I truly feel like I've learned everything that I know from these incredible women that I've worked with. So thank you to both of you. And shout out to Alicia Hogue, who I worked with very closely at Pro Wellness, and owe much of my success to her as well. So stay interviews. So Richard P. Finnegan is a CEO of a company called C-Suite Analytics, and he has been referred to as the leading thinker on employee retention and the godfather, so to speak, of the stay interview. And when I Googled him, I discovered that he actually is a graduate of Penn State University. He got his bachelor's and his graduate degree at Penn State. So he describes a stay interview as a discussion a leader conducts with an employee to learn actions the leader can take to strengthen the employee's engagement. So these stay interviews really benefited us as well as the employee, and you'll hear a little bit some of that back and forth, but it's really about us taking accountability for retaining top talent. So as Ellie mentioned, we started with Project Echo in 2018 and started as just the two of us. And over a 3.5-year period, we grew from a team of 2 to a team of, what is it now, 15? So quite rapid growth over a 3.5-year period. And during that time, of course, we had to deal with COVID and shifting to a fully virtual environment, and that came with its challenges. So early this year, actually right after the new year, when we all sit and reflect on our goals for the year, I thought to myself, I hope everybody's happy. I hope the team feels good. I feel like, I'm checking in with them every month or every 2 weeks, but are they happy? Are they overwhelmed? What's really going on? And having this moment of panic, like, I can't lose anybody. Like, I don't want that to happen. So when I mentioned it to Jen and Ellie, Jen said, well, what this kind of seems like a stay interview. What do you know about that? And so that's what we ended up doing. So why might you consider conducting a stay interview? As managers, we should be checking in with our employees frequently. Sometimes we do it bi-weekly, sometimes monthly, and some just on an as-needed basis. But those meetings are really project specific. What are your challenges? What can I help with? Give me an update on where you're at. It's not really, they don't really always have an opportunity to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, or, I feel unsupported. That we don't always offer a space for that. So the purpose of doing this really is preventative. We work hard to prevent chronic disease by eating well and exercising. So why shouldn't we take the same approach with our teams? So here's a list of why you would want to consider it. I felt it most appropriate to kick off the new year with these. And so Ellie and I conducted these with all of our direct reports, the entire ECHO team, earlier this year in January and February. What I had hoped was that these conversations would lead to better alignment of their role with their skill sets, their own personal goals, their interests, their strengths. And importantly, I think it was really appropriate when it came to goal setting. So anytime your manager drops a one-on-one meeting on your calendar, there's some level of, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? So it's really, really important to be clear about the purpose of these meetings and the expectations. Don't hold anything close. Schedule it in advance, share the expectations ahead of time, share the questions that you might be asking, reiterate that you're looking for them to be honest. Make sure that they know that their answers and responses will be kept confidential and only shared with leadership as appropriate, and that you want to hear the good and the bad. I think the most important thing is planning out the questions you want to ask ahead of time. So I grouped the questions into buckets, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's also really important to make sure you share with them how you plan to use the information, and probably most importantly, that you are planning to use the information. Here's a list of some example questions, and I can say that we actually used most of these, if not all of them, when we were doing the stay interviews with our staff. So I wanted to make sure that I covered them across several categories. So what they like about their job, what do they want to change about their job? Do you feel recognized and utilized? How would you like to grow, both in your role and within the team? And in the spirit of retaining top talent, what might tempt you to leave? So Ellie found this great graphic of best practices, and I think it covers everything really beautifully. A few things I did want to point out are the importance of setting those expectations. So really clearly communicate, you're not in trouble. I want to hear the good and the bad. Here's what this meeting is going to be about, and here's what I plan to do with the information. Like Ellie said before, make sure this is not tied to any sort of performance appraisal. It's super important that they know that they're not being appraised during this stay interview. Be a good listener. So ask the questions and then listen. Really, the only time that you as a manager should be speaking is when you're asking the questions or maybe clarifying a question. The one thing I did want to point out here that I'm not sure I 100% agree with is conducting these with select employees only. We took the approach of conducting them with all of our employees, including some very, very recent hires. If you think about it, we do a really good job. Do we really do a good job of offering our employees space to be brutally honest? And what better time than when they've first been onboarded? We talk about team culture. We talk about the importance of building this team culture. Are we putting our money where our mouths are? And so I think more than some of the other employees, they can share a totally different perspective. It's never too soon. So once you've conducted the stay interviews, what do you do with this information? So first step, I think it's important to communicate everything to senior leadership. You should share the good and the bad. This offers opportunity to pivot, make changes, make adjustments, come up with a plan for addressing those common concerns across the board, individual concerns, and then also communicating back to the employees, summarizing what you heard from them, offering them an opportunity to provide clarification on points that you may have misunderstood or misheard. And then also share with them what some immediate next steps might be and maybe some future next steps. Flexibility. So working in research comes with its challenges. Projects end, new ones begin, there's ebbs and flows. Don't be afraid to consider taking a good look at responsibilities, pet projects, and maybe shifting things around to better align with staff interests. Change can be really hard, but we owe it to ourselves to be flexible, and we owe it to our employees to be flexible. The most important point, if you do plan to shift work, is to communicate. I'm not taking this from your plate because you were doing a bad job. I'm removing it because you don't enjoy it. You communicated to me that you don't enjoy it. And this person over here is looking for growth in that space. How do you feel about that? Look for those small opportunities for growth in the day-to-day. This could be very as simple as empowering someone to lead a project team meeting. It could be anything from implementing new processes, starting small work groups to take care of those rainy day projects, or leading strategic planning within a team. I can't emphasize this enough. Empower your employees. If an employee feels empowered, they will have greater trust in leadership. They'll feel more motivated, which is going to lead to greater creativity and productivity and improve employee retention. Delegating is tough, and I know that from experience, but the reward is so worth it. Accountability is huge. I have 3 teenagers, and I tell them every day, a true leader does not command respect, they earn it. You aren't a leader because you're a high school senior. You're not a leader because you were hired as a manager. You're not a leader because you're the best athlete on the team or the smartest person in the room. A few ways Ellie and I have held ourselves accountable over the years is building time into our day-to-day to be available to staff, to mentor, to guide, and brainstorming opportunities for growth across the board. Ensuring that there were processes in place to support hiring great people and support retaining great people. Communicating the importance of team culture during the interview process and holding yourself accountable to maintaining that. Make room for growth, encourage mentorship opportunities, even within the team. Just because Ellie and I manage most of the team doesn't mean we're the only ones that can mentor. Allow space for that with your entire team. There's mentorship opportunities for everyone. Build confidence in staff, empower them and give them room to fail, to learn, and to grow, and reminding them that they have resources for support. And of course, delegate. I know, delegate. Offer opportunities to grow skill sets and increase their contributions to the team. It goes a long way in making them feel valued and appreciated. So this is just a list of some tools and resources that we have talked about throughout this talk. We really tried to just share a summary of the best practices that we have found worked really well for our team, and these resources can further support that. So the CTSI's Team Science Toolbox, it provides ready access to evidence-based team interventions and includes tips for all the things that Ellie talked about: team formation, team launch, team maturation, and team assessment. StrengthsFinder's tool is another good one, and I saw that Jen linked to the book in chat. For the recording purposes, it is StrengthsFinder 2.0 from Gallup by Tom Rath. So the onboarding documentation, SOPs, that's really, really, really important. We have templates that I think we would be more than willing to share with anybody who wants to see them. They have been developed and modified and edited over the last however many years we've been working together, and adapted to various teams. The milestone templates. So I just want to give another shout out to some of our team, Laura and Abby and Kara, who felt empowered to say, hey, our onboarding was kind of tough and it would be better if we did this. And we said, great, go and do it. So creating those program milestone templates, really building out the onboarding, knowing what they needed when they came on board and communicating that, and then following it through. The Stay Interview Guide. So I'm more than happy to share these questions. I know the slides will also be available after this talk. And then I did also want to point out our water cooler teams chat. So when we went virtual, on March 13th, 2020, we were like, now what do we do? I can't have my inbox clogged. I need for everyone to be able to communicate really fast back and forth. We no longer can just pop into an office and say, hey, do you have this or do you have a minute? So we started a water cooler teams chat. And this gave us that human interaction that we all miss. And it really nurtured this really positive team culture and team dynamics. It gave space for non-work related chatter throughout the day and just let us get to know each other better. And it just helps to establish this really comfortable rapport among teammates so that you feel really comfortable saying, hey, I need help with this, and you're not intimidated.
And I have to add to that, it's funny, like I said, before the pandemic and us going to mostly remote work at Project Echo, we were a team of less than 5 and now a team of 15. And there were many people until we met in person for a strategic planning event. We were at a park outside. There were many people I had actually never met in person. And I think because of the water cooler chat and use of Teams on a regular basis and kind of trying to find ways to maintain that in-person level of communication, it didn't dawn on me that I hadn't seen that person in person until I thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I thought you were a lot taller, but I was not expecting to feel like I've known you for all this time, if not more. So it's very effective, and there was really no time lost or no team dynamic lost because of these resources that we put in place.
I think that takes us to the end of our show. So we're happy to answer any questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Erica and Ellie. That was absolutely fantastic. I know everybody in the audience learned a lot. You're welcome to go ahead and unmute or to type any questions that you may have into the chat. Please use the opportunity to pick the brains of these folks. And I know we also have other participants from the team online too, so thanks for joining. It's really been my true honor to work with this incredible group, and I was really delighted to share their expertise with you all today. All right, I got a question for you then. While we wait for those questions to roll in, so let's say I am starting I'm a junior faculty member. I have a new team, and my team is one person. So actually, Erica, this may sound familiar to you. So how do you put some of these things into place when maybe your team is very small?
Do you want me to take that, Ellie, or?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a great question, Jen. So Jen's asking this question because when she was a junior faculty, I was her team of 1. And so the best thing that I could say for putting some of these practices into place, it's not rocket science, and you can really just start anywhere. Something is better than nothing. So I think the most important thing, if you're a very small team, is making sure that you're available to them. So communication is hugely important. Connecting them with resources. So maybe there's other teams across campus who have been really successful at, sharing how to do an IRB application, or are wizards at Red Cap and can help with that. So making sure that if you as a junior faculty don't have time, or you don't have the knowledge or the how-to, that you're connecting them with other research teams that do. I think that's hugely important. I think also just providing that soft space for them to fail and ask questions is hugely important. I think it's very overwhelming to come in as a research staff member here at Penn State, especially if you're coming externally, because there's a lot of processes and groups across this institution that takes some time to get to know the ins and outs. So being that soft space for them to land and to ask questions and don't expect them to know all the things. So a really simple way to make them feel like they're trending in the right direction would be to set those program or those job specific milestones. 3 months in, I might expect that you have an understanding of why we submit an IRB application and when to submit one. But by 6 months, I might expect that you could do this on your own. So setting those really specific milestones of what you're looking for, I think would be critical. I don't know, Ellie, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And I think, oftentimes we kind of silo ourselves into the groups that we belong at Penn State because we are such a huge, massive campus. And I often say we are Penn State College of Medicine and Penn State Health, and there are job classifications out there. So if you're hiring employees that feel like they're on an island, there are resources through human resources, even a simple search through the directory for position titles, or a search through Outlook to find if you don't have those connections yourself or have connections that have those connections, but allowing space for them to be mentored. There are programs on campus, through the CTSI and other offices where you can connect your employees to answer any questions that you may not have the answers to. I mean, I will admit I am not a researcher by trade, but I know a lot of really good researchers. So I'm happy to make those connections too. So never be afraid to reach out to resources outside of your unit or your specific program. I think there's a lot that we can learn from each other, and a lot of opportunity for that. So that would be my other recommendation. But I do love that safe space. That's really important. I think having a team that has a unified goal and not necessarily individual career goals, those are important too. But having a team that's really working towards the same goal, you're there to help each other succeed. You're there to have each other's backs, and it's really a wonderful thing to see when a team is just hugely supportive of each other to succeed together. So I think that's a culture space thing that needs to be considered too.
I'll also highlight that you don't need to have a team of 15 to establish team culture. It can be a team of 2, and you can set that standard right from the start.
And I would like to thank you. I would like to add something, but first, I just want to introduce myself. Probably you know who I am, but I'm in here now. My name is misspelled. I don't know how to fix it on the screen, but it's Inginia, and the G sounds like a J in English. And I'm so happy to have been invited to join you and to learn of all this amazing work you're doing, because it makes a lot of sense to build a team in order to be the most productive in carrying on the work. We know that when we lose a team member, oh my gosh, the loss of that team member and then to recruit someone else is quite an effective way of doing business at many levels. And I was just going to say, adding to the one-to-one team, that it's also very important to level the playing field. That is not like, it's not that I'm the leader and you report to me, but more that we're working together with different expertise. Because obviously I, as a leader, need you and you need me. So we are one team, as opposed to I'm the leader and you are the person who reports to me. That's also important.
That is such a great point and cannot be emphasized enough. I think that's something Ellie and I have worked really hard to do. She mentioned checking your ego at the door, and I think that's critical. Everybody comes with a unique strength or skill set, and like Ellie mentioned, we look for that when we're hiring. What do they have that's a little bit different from everybody else on the team? That's what creates this well-rounded team that doesn't settle into groupthink. And so checking your ego at the door and saying, okay, yes, we do inevitably have this hierarchy, but that's not how we operate here.
Thank you both. There's been some chat about the Strength Finders book, and also thank you, Rachel Lully, for putting the comment in there too. So HR has some resources as well. I would say if you are a small team or a team where you're not sure where those resources might come from, check. Because I know in the Department of Medicine, I've been very fortunate to have Dr. Ma as our department chair support continuing educational opportunities for our staff, such as projects like this. So, you know, there may be some resources that you can look to. I would also say, put in a plug here for the Clinical and Translational Science Institute, or our CTSI. We're so fortunate to have Erica at the helm as our administrative director now. So please tap into our CTSI resources, how we can help connect you with other researchers really at the College of Medicine, at University Park, and we're working to expand that network across our Commonwealth campuses. So don't forget about us. If you're engaged in this work, let us know how we can help make those networks happen for you. All right, what other questions do we have? Well, we have lots of thank yous for you in there. Yes, Abby, please feel free to unmute.
Thanks, Jen. So I'm one of the members of our ECHO team, along with Jessica Byler, and Jen Posier's here also, who's part of our extended Krasnewski family. So I wanted to just mention from the employee perspective that this is actually incredibly beneficial to all of us. So I think one of the most important things, and I have to credit Jen, who I met many years ago, and I'm so glad to actually be working directly with her for the past few years, as well as Erica and Ellie, who really created this respectful, supportive group of team members with the ECHO team. Now that Erica's with CTSI, I can only imagine how great that team is going to function in the future, as well as all the other teams that Jen manages. So what Ellie said about checking your ego at the doors, I want to echo again, no pun intended, but that's incredibly important to showing support for everyone, and to feel the respect from your leadership enough that they say, hey, I want you to stay, so let's talk about what will keep you on our team. That feels so good from an employee perspective. And I know a lot of us come from, maybe you've had not a great, employment environment in the past, but I will say without a doubt, and I'm not exaggerating because my bosses are sitting in front of us, but that this has been the single most rewarding professional experience I've ever had. So being on the ECHO team. So just really appreciate that. And I just wanted to say kudos to all of you.
Thank you, Abby. I don't know what to say after that. I'm supposed to be facilitating. Don't make me tear up. Any other questions that we have today?
And I was wondering if you wanted to go back to Abby to say what's the top reason for why this is the most rewarding job we have ever had.
Oh, that's easy. Well, I think it's our leadership, because it is so supportive. You know, what Ellie showed earlier on the slides about what's most important to people. Money's nice, a title is nice, but you cannot beat the camaraderie and supportive environment that we've been able to foster, for sure. And I think too, with the stay interviews, it's really important to talk about why someone may consider leaving and how that can be fixed. If it's an issue, perhaps it's a personality conflict, perhaps it's a work, that you're not doing something that you're passionate about. I think that people often leave and they never get an opportunity to talk about it beforehand. And there's not an opportunity to kind of shut it down before it becomes a problem, where someone might want to look for another job. So bringing that out in the open is so important. And yeah, the water cooler chat, we're on it all the time. I think most of our team is actually here for this session because we have some other ECHO sessions going on at the same time. But if we didn't have that scheduling issue, they would all be here. And I believe every one of us would say the same things. So I think I can speak for the team.
So Jen, you need your box of tissues out there.
So, again, I think that, a great question for Erica and Ellie to think about, thinking about small teams. So, I remember being in this space of how do you align what people do with their career path and their passion when you have a job to do? We all know that. And so we came up with something early on that was like the 80-20 rule. And we wanted 80% of people's time to really be focused on what they're excited about. And then we all have that 20% that you just have to do as part of your role. So maybe any thoughts, Erica, Ellie, and filling in that 80-20 and how you might do that on a smaller team, or aligned with that, how might you think about growth opportunities if you don't have those within your team? How can you support folks who want a career here at Penn State?
Speak about the growth opportunities if you don't have that. I think that the first step is maybe setting them up with a mentor. So setting them up with somebody who is operating in a different team environment, maybe a larger team, similar classification, but maybe a different level, and having them just have sort of informal conversations about, what their career trajectory has been and how they got there, some of the important takeaways, lessons learned. I think that's a really nice way on a very small scale to say, I want to encourage you and provide time for you to set up this mentorship relationship with someone. But I think there's always growth opportunities. I think we as leaders hold on to things that either one, we enjoy, or two, it feels like too much work to pass off, or three, do it because it makes us feel important, or whatever the case may be. And I really think it's critical to take a good look at your own workload and think about, okay, maybe it's time to delegate this. Maybe it's time to let this piece go because it's going to offer that growth opportunity for this person. And it's going to start to free up some of my 80% so that I can really think about what is going to help me grow. But that takes work, and it takes time, and it takes commitment to do that. So yeah, I don't know, Ellie, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, no, that was so well put. And I'd add, ideally we don't want to lose our really good people and top talent, but obviously in a grant funded world, that can happen. And I think listening to your staff and what their passions are and trying to align their work in the best way you can. Obviously, there are things that need to get done, but if there's a way to align the work they're doing to help with that growth trajectory, to make sure they're on the path of getting to where they want to be eventually, I think nothing's sweeter than seeing someone that you've led and mentored go off and do great things. So there's something really fulfilling about that. It's not the ideal situation because you want to keep them, but it is pretty fulfilling to see staff go on and do wonderful things, and to know that you've done your best to help them get to where they want to be, I think is important. So I think that's something that's really hard for leaders to do. They want to keep things close, and maybe not open staff eyes to other opportunities. But I think the also wonderful thing about grant funding is there are percentages of positions. So if there are considerations on other grants that other people are leading, that's also an opportunity perhaps in the future that they could get assigned to things that could help, even a small percentage, help them grow in those ways and on the path that they're looking to go on.
I think I've also always encouraged my team, and I've put this into practice myself when I can help it, is blocking time for things that really bring me joy. And what I find is that tends to make me feel more motivated when I have that time to be a little bit creative and produce something. What I've also heard from just about everybody is that they want to feel useful. They just want to feel useful. When they feel useful, they feel like a contributor and they feel valued. So find ways to make these staff members and your team feel useful. And that can really go a long way in moving them closer to enjoying the 80% of their job and give them that push to work through that 20% that they may not love.
I think that's a great wrap for today's session. Again, I really want to thank Ellie and Erica for your time today and sharing your expertise as outstanding leaders here at the College of Medicine. So thank you everyone for joining us. We will have the recording available if you're interested in sharing with other folks, and you'll receive that information in your email box soon. Thanks for joining us today and have a great week.